everyone doing today? Um, I haven't gotten any links for feedback, so if anyone is looking to get feedback, let me know. Just post links to SyncSketch here. Ideally, if you want to send them on Discord, that's more than fine. But if no one has any links that they want me to see, I think I'm gonna start blocking the shot that we had analyzed a few weeks ago. I managed to get my picker to work, so now I'm ready. And please let me know if something isn't working, the audio. I think everything is set up now, so hopefully you guys can hear me correctly. I hope. So let me share my screen. And again, if anyone has anything that they want me to look at, feel free to post a link in the chat. And I'm just gonna double check on Twitch if everything is working. Just because I'm not trusting this too much. But yeah, seems like everything's good. Okay. So, um, last time I had analyzed this reference. Hey, how's it going? And I managed to get the picker working. Unfortunately, I can't put it where I want it to be. I usually like it docked, but it's okay. We're gonna do what we can. I don't know why Anim School changed that, or maybe there's a setting that I'm not aware of. But I don't see anything different. So, hey, how's everyone? Again, if anyone wants me to look at anything, um, feel free to send a link. If not, I'm just gonna block this out. Mind you, I might not be super quick today. I just finished work literally 8 minutes ago. Because of the time change. I didn't have a time to. Oof. So yeah, and also now I'm a lead, so there's like my week has been meetings all the time. Oh no, I'm sad to hear that your week has been stressful. Hopefully the week is ending, so you get to enjoy the weekend, and maybe next week will be better. That's what I'm hoping to. Cool. Yeah, sounds good. In the meantime, let me just refresh my mind as to what the shot needs so that I can start thinking how to block it. And I'm not gonna finish blocking this today for sure, because I will barely probably have time. Okay, so I think usually I start from the beginning and I start blocking on the first pose, but I think I'm gonna, in this case, block out one of these poses first because she's turning around. I don't want to um like this will be where she's staying most of the time in this facing the front. So I might just do a pose here just to figure out where I need this. And maybe it's like one of this. Yeah, I think I might just pose one of these poses. Just to give me like a rough idea, and then I can get started from the beginning and show you guys my process. Usually I think I mentioned it before, I block what I like to call my checkpoints rather than my key poses. And this is just because I use that terminology in my brain, not because it is a good terminology. Um it depends. If it's usually I block out the body and the face on like my main key poses, especially if there's a change in the expression, in the emotion. But I try to at first keep it to a minimum so that I focus on the flow of the body and how the body moves. But I have a face there because if I'm looking at this right now, how this rig is, I feel like because the face is not conveying the emotion, my brain will not pose the character in the correct way because I don't see the emotion. So I like to put in a few facial poses here and there Um, it might not be much, it might be just a few, maybe 4 or 5 to give me the idea of what I need, and maybe blinks as well. If I have a blink, I will probably animate. I put it in, but then after I do the body, I will go in and do the face. But it also depends a lot on what the character is doing. If it's a very subtle shot, usually the body doesn't move that much, so the face is the most important thing, and that's what I would do first. So let me put this here so that I know what I'm actually seeing. I don't need the outliner. Okay, and we're gonna just have to deal with the picker being there in a very annoying way. It's okay. And to be honest, whatever I show you guys, this is just my process. It doesn't mean that it's the process. Also, I don't know this picker. This is the first time that I'm using it, so I'm basically trying it out. And it's like, why are these things not selected, for example? And why is it selecting and unselect? This is what I don't like about the AnimSchool picker. It always does this. Also, this probably doesn't have the controllers, but why did it? See? Why doesn't it just tell me? Okay, did it key this? Yes. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna start thinking about how to post this, and also think about this in the shot space, kind of in the middle. And I'm gonna adjust probably at the end. Also, again, I haven't used my personal Maya in so long that I probably don't have all the settings that I usually need, but it's okay. We're gonna make it work. This is belly. No, I want the FK. Okay, here it goes. I personally use FK hips and chest because that's what I like. Some people like using IK. That's more than fair. I find that FK gives me a more natural way in which everything moves, and I want to check how these shoulders work. Okay, cool. The reason why I check how the shoulders work is because sometimes if you move the FK arms, the shoulders will move the arms a lot, and that's very annoying. Again, this is now going to be like a super rough pose. I don't want to actually pose the character right now because my pose will depend on basically where the character is coming from and everything, but this is for me to get a rough idea of where the character will be. This neck is so long. Okay, that's just to give me an idea. So let's start with the first pose and key everything. And because I don't want to keep moving around, let me see if I still have Animbot. I think it depends. Personally, I've never, ever, ever had any problems with my image planes slowing down my viewport. But I have heard of people who do. Some people have the problem if you're using video files and they change to image sequence and it works. I always use MOV files. I don't like image sequences, mainly because I like having just one file for everything, and having an image sequence is too much work for me. I've never had any problems, but I have heard of people who do, so it's not just you. Maybe try changing to image sequence, and if you're still getting the problem, maybe you can try not having the set if you don't need it, or changing the rig to proxy if you can. Sometimes that's okay. Oh yeah, yeah, Pratham. I'm planning on giving feedback. It's just that no one so far has sent me any links. So if you guys have any links, feel free. Yeah, I don't know honestly if notifications and everything might be working. I think that maybe because of the time zone change, we might need to reset a few things up. So I might need to go through everything and rechange because of time zones, but also time zones are going to change again on Sunday. So it might just be this week that is a little bit weird. Honestly, I have very strong opinions about daylight saving time. Being I don't agree with it. So I'm just gonna create this myself because I don't want to have to be moving around all the time. Okay. I don't need the cool. Yeah, you can also do that. If you have Keyframe Pro, you can just sync it. If that works for you, that's also a great option. I because for me it works well. I never do it outside of Maya, but it's a good option. I think we can not have again. I've never used this rig, so we're gonna basically learn how to do this together. I want to have only FK legs because she's gonna be turning and we're not gonna be able to see it. So here we are. Because if I leave them in IK, I'm gonna have to do a lot of work with this, and I don't wanna. Also, am I in stepped mode? Nope. Of course I'm not. Okay. And for anyone, if you are like looking at Keyframe MP Pro, yes, it's a paid software, but honestly, for the price that you have to pay, it's just one time and you can use it forever. The same with Blue Pencil 2, they are from the same creators. I paid for it once and I think it was like it was less than $100, which is a lot of money, but if you think about how many years you're going to use it, it's not that expensive. Like I've been using Blue Pencil 2 and Keyframe Pro for I like to say 4 years now, and I think I paid around 65 for one of them. So divided by 4 is really cheap. Yeah, honestly, I use Keyframe MP all the time. Well, Keyframe Pro is really good. The next feedback session is tomorrow at 1 p.m. PST. If not, next week, same schedule as usual. Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. PST, Thursdays 11 a.m., and again Fridays at 1 p.m. So yeah, if you want to, feel free to come tomorrow. You'll have Madison. Okay, so we have a link. And also, yes, taking forever to start a shot because again, I haven't had a break since I finished work. Cool. So, any feedback in particular that you want, or any notes? Just to know if there's anything that you're struggling with, or you just want notes because you need to submit this. Or maybe if you're doing pantomime, you can't submit it again. But cool. Oops, I think I accidentally drew that over. Okay, so let me think about this. I think there's a few things pacing wise in terms of timing that we could adjust a little bit to make this stronger. Again, I haven't seen this before. I'm not sure what your mentor has said. So if there's anything that I say that contradicts your mentor notes, don't listen to me, listen to your mentor because that's why you're at AM. And I'm not as experienced as the mentors in AM. But for example, in terms of speed, I wonder because there's this area here where it's not very clear what he's thinking, what his thought process is. Because it seems like he just goes for it and that's it. But I think we can work on that a little bit. And then I think that the way that this breaks is feeling a little bit slow. Like, I think maybe I would speed it up a little bit because it's feeling slightly weightless. And I think if it were a little bit faster, it could help. Let me see how much faster. What happens if we do? I think that if we were twice as fast, it would have a nice feeling to it. Um, and it would be really funny because that would break really fast. Let me go back to the normal speed, but he can just stay in that pose. And so the contrast between, oh, this is simulation, yeah, the contrast between his pose and everything moving will be very funny. So yeah, if you can adjust this timing and just make it literally twice as fast, I think it would feel much, much, much better. Okay, let's look at this by parts. So just to double check, in this area, when he looks at this and he goes and turns this around and does this, what is he feeling? What is his emotion? What is he thinking? What is basically like the subtext of this part in particular? Just to double check so that I can give you better specific feedback. And also, I think someone sent a link. And if you guys have anything that you want me to look at, please send it over here. I have just checked Discord, but I might not be checking it constantly. So if you want me to give you feedback, just please send the link here. Okay, that's fine. Like, making it snappier is more than possible, but what is he thinking here? Because making it snappier, yeah, we can work with timing. But the important thing about pantomime is to explore how the character acts and thinks and shows emotion without necessarily depending on the face. And so, because we also don't have the face, I feel like right now it's a little bit tough to understand what he's feeling here. So that's why what is it that he's like? He looks at the picture, and what does he think? What goes through his head before he gets into this? So that we understand, like, is what what made him do that motion, basically. I think that here, and again, I'm not sure what your mentor said or um what you've talked about before, so I'm just going to give you my thoughts on this. But basically, I think it would be interesting if instead of him um sweeping towards camera, this beginning, he was a little bit more turned towards the picture, because right now it feels like for no reason at all he decided to look at the painting. For no reason, he was like, I'm sweeping, oh, painting. But maybe if he were turned around more towards the picture, he could be sweeping, and as maybe he just lifts his head up because it's like a natural movement, and he opens his eyes, then he sees the picture, and it's in his eyesight, as his eye line, so that at the most he will have to turn his head a little bit, and it will be right there. So you wouldn't need to have this big turn or anything. So again, that's a comment that you can take it or leave it. I think it would strengthen your shot if basically his whole body was a little bit more turned overall. You can have him in the same place and everything. It's just more turned this way. I don't know if this makes sense. But so that um Okay, but can you tell me again what he's feeling and what he's thinking when he sees that? Because all of that, we can talk about it for sure. But that, the camera animation is not the most important thing in your animation. For now, personally, I think that uh, this camera works to get the animation going. Then you can play with the camera. But if your animation needs work, then it doesn't matter if you have a perfect camera. So that's why I would work on the animation first and worry about the camera later. Like, you can switch the camera after if you're not happy with this. I mean, also, I'm guessing that right now, due to animation mentor schedule, you're probably not working on this shot anymore. So, because you have to go into the audio one, unless you're in class 6, and then that's different. But if you are in class 4, I would say focus on your dialogue shot, and then this one you can polish it after class. The thing about the camera, you can put that motion later. That's not gonna change what's important about the shot. What's important about the shot is the acting. I'm gonna give you my ideas, but it would be better for me to understand what it is that you wanted to do with the shot in terms of the acting and the thought process that the character is going through. If you're not sure what it is, because that's more than fair, sometimes when we're learning, we haven't thought about every single detail because we're learning, and that's more than okay. So I can give you my thoughts and how I would approach this, but it might change your shot a lot. So that's why I would rather know, so that I don't stray too far from what you were thinking. But up to you. If you want me to just tell you all my thoughts, I will. So that's like for the beginning what I would do in terms of how he looks at the picture, just so that it feels a little bit more natural and a little bit less staged, so that it's like suddenly, oh, look at that, I saw it for no reason. And then I'm gonna first talk about the acting, and then I'm gonna go into any other notes. And then here, if you want it to be snappier, what could be is that here, when he turns around, maybe he looks, instead of right now, what's happening, you're kind of still looking at the painting for a little bit too long. And so he's not really connecting with what he's going to do after. So maybe what you can do is keep him in this pose that you have, and this is how we're going to also push it and make it snappier. And then maybe all that happens from these frames is that he, like, when you go backwards a little bit here, he looks down to the broom, and he maybe lifts it up a little bit, kind of like we are understanding that he's thinking about what he's going to do next. So that's maybe how you can tie it all up. Because right now what's happening is, when I saw this, I didn't understand his reasoning for this. Like, it also, and I would try to think also, okay, is it, what's the main goal of this character? Why is he doing that motion? Like, we need to think about all of these things before we even get into animation, like the animation of the shot. Is it that okay, good to know. I might mute this just in case. Is it that he sees the painting and he realizes that his long, long dream was to be a Spartan? Is it that he sees the painting and he thinks of all the movies that he saw, and it's like, oh, this is so much fun, ha! Like, what is going on through his head? Because that's going to change his acting. Because maybe him looking at this, is it that he's like, ooh, this is this is my sword, whatever. Or maybe we don't need that because something else is going through his head. When you're doing pantomime, what's nice to do is think of, even if we don't have audio and dialogue, it's good to think about the internal dialogue. What is going through this character's um, brain, and what are the thought process? Because we usually don't do things just for doing them. There is a reason why we do things. So unless it's something repetitive, uh, we have a reason. So I would think about that a little bit more. But one idea is for him to just kind of stay in this pose, and when he does this, he kind of looks down at it and lifts it up a little bit, and then from this pose, like around frame 94, you can literally kind of go straight into this, into stepping and doing this. It might, yes, it might need a little bit of cheating, or also he just, instead of this being here, it's just here. That could be another option, depending on how you want to play it, because I feel like all of this area is feeling very slow, and I'm not sure I understand why. Maybe again, if you want to keep it slow, uh okay, is it because he's channeling this Spartan feeling that he's getting? Then it can be that all of these movements, this is a little bit less big, so he doesn't move that much, and it's more solemn, so that he's kind of getting into character. I'm just giving you ideas because I'm not sure what you're going for. If you know specifically what you're going for, then take whichever works and adjust it. But if you want to make it snappier, then it would be funnier if basically he went from looking at it to directly. And like, you can cheat even, instead of having to do all of this, um you could basically cheat it so that when, let's say, you would go from frame 94 and you wouldn't need all of this, you would just need kind of getting into this pose. When he swings this around, that's when you can switch where the broom is. um that's one option. If you don't want to change anything, okay. Is there a reason why, like, he looks at the painting and pretends to be a hero? Is it just play? Is it like he saw it and he was like, I don't know, like a kind of like a kid thinking, oh, I'm gonna play pretend? So I would personally do it faster then, and I would maybe do that idea of just looking at it and then going straight into that, because it's also going to be funnier, because all of this is kind of giving it away of what he's going to do, all of that motion. And this is where you start straying from your reference, because sometimes, cool. So sometimes we we can't do everything that our reference does, just because in animation we can push things and we can go further from our reference. So maybe, again, like I said, I would have him look up at it, and then first I would um, adjust this pose a little bit. Right now, the wrist feels a little bit broken. I don't have um, well, like right now, if this is the thing, it feels like the wrist is bending too much this way, which is very uncomfortable. So I would just rotate the wrist towards camera so that you get this type of feeling. So if you look at it from above, right now you have this bend, have it so that it's more straight. And then, sorry, I would personally not have this pose, not have this pose. Kind of go from this to this. And in this motion where it goes fast, if you want, you can do like, I don't know, a flip or something and you switch it, or you just literally um have this over here, whichever. You can cheat it or whatever, but I think it's going to be much stronger if he doesn't move around that much. If that makes sense. In terms of the poses here, oops. I think I would maybe bring this elbow more out. I think it would look better. That's the thing that if you want to make this faster and you want to do the idea that I said where you would remove these poses, you can either cheat how the broom gets there and basically in this quick movement um you switch it up, like cheat it, or you just have the broom not switched. That's another option. I personally, I think I would just cheat it um when it's going, when it's moving really really fast. If you want to keep all of this animation, then we need to work a little bit more on it, because right now the mechanics are feel slightly um off in like the spacing and how the body breaks down. So let me know if you want to keep this as is. I can give you feedback on this and tell you how to basically um, fix the spline so that your polish goes easier. If you don't want the, if you want the other idea, then you need to rework this part. But it's up to you because again, it's your shot. So if you want to have all of this, that's more than fair. I'm just giving you options because you said that you wanted it to be snappier. Okay, cool. So if that's the case, basically, if you're unsure, whenever I'm unsure about trying out new ideas, I might shoot reference very, very quickly. So basically, because sometimes it's easier and way faster to just reshoot reference of him basically being in this pose, looking at the broom, and then literally just going straight to this. And then you're going to see how the body changes and everything changes. And when you're doing this, that's when you can cheat the broom. So suddenly, maybe, for example, here you have multiples and everything. I think you have a bit too many multiples. I will remove a few. But basically, in this area is where you can switch the sides and kind of cheat it so that it just happened in that moment. Um, yeah, for sure. I have a few people before you, but for sure I will have time to review your shot. Again, for me personally, when I'm doing things like this, I would shoot reference very, very quickly. It will take you 5 to 10 minutes to shoot this reference. It will take you longer probably to set the camera and crop the reference and actually shooting the reference. And it's going to, because you want to go snappier, that's going to help you a lot, because then we don't have all of this extra movement of the character turning around and doing all this. And then as you do this, that's when I would cheat it, or I wouldn't. I would just leave it as is. Or another option, instead of cheating it, another option that you can do is to switch how the broom is, and that might be even easier. So basically, um grabbing the basically the broom would be here, and he would grab it the opposite way, and that way the broom is already on the side that you need. Because if you look at this, the reason why you're doing all of this change is because the broom is needs to be grabbed like this, with this hand and this angle. So if you just switch it up so that he's doing all of this, but when he changes, when he stops, sorry, like you can have, like, there's one sweep, two, maybe there's a third. And on that third one, you just stay with the broom here. And that already gives you that. And then all he needs to do is literally, and that's going to even simplify it way, way, way more, because then you don't need to cheat anything, you don't need to adjust anything. It's basically just adding another sweeping motion and ending it there. And then, like, I would reshoot some reference very, very quickly of going from this pose to that pose, or what, to that pose. And I think that could help. Like, you could even have this anticipation and everything, because he would go from this to that's why reshooting reference for changes like this is very, very useful, because I could draw it over, but it's not going to be the same as following actual reference with the actual body mechanics. Again, it sounds like I'm destroying your shot, but I'm just trying to get you that snappy feeling that you were talking about, which I think would be very, very funny. How do I mix references? Well, the way that I would do it is basically, um, if you have your image planes or whatever, basically I would forget about the other image planes. I, like, right now we're only going to care about this section from here to here. And so what I would do is um, basically set up my camera and make sure I am in the pose that I need in my reference. So I would look at me and the camera and seeing how I'm posed to make sure that I'm posed in the exact same way as your character is here in this pose. And then I would just shoot the reference going from this pose to this, and using the if you want to use the anticipation and everything, that's more than fine. um and then how would you do this? Would you block this out and spline it? What do you mean, if it's possible? The oh, hang on, I don't know what to do. Okay, so in that case, again, it depends on the shot. Like, if it's everything is possible for sure. It's just finding the best way, and finding the best way will be different for everyone. My method might not be the best for you, but you can try it out. So basically, what I do when I'm changing something, because that's going to happen at work as well. Suddenly your director might be like, hey, can you change this? I know someone who, um during a feature, uh during a feature, he had polished the shot, like already polished. It was up for final, and the director was like, can you change the acting? So he had to go in, reshoot reference, and reblock. So how would you do it? I would basically, let's say you're changing this whole area, which is what we talked about. I would basically grab the whole character, all of the controllers, and I would set a key here, so that I am basically making sure that there's a key there, and everything before that is saved. I'm not touching that. I'm only going to touch it from here. Yeah, yeah. Oh, if you like, honestly, if you want to send the link later, feel free. Like we've just started this, so um there is time for sure. I'm gonna be here probably for at least 2 hours. And then I would come here and set a key here. That way I'm basically blocking out before and after. That way I know that I'm just going to change that area from key 1 to key 2. Everything that comes before or after, I'm not going to touch it. And I'm just going to edit that. Um then let's say you, I don't know, your director said change all of this because something different needs to happen. What I would do is basically delete all of the keys in between. So personally I like to do that because I like having a fresh start, because my brain finds it, unless it's a very minimal change, when the things that I need to change are not that big, I wouldn't do this. But if it's a big change, like for example, trying this out where the mechanics are going to be different, what you can do is basically a key here, a key there, delete everything in between, and basically do the process as if this were a very small shot. You can even set it in Maya so that you only see that part, that range uh, of your shot, and then do the process. Block it out and refine. Refine, sorry, spline. I'm confused because of the work terminology. And then polish. But you only focus on that area. So if, for example, your mentor said, "Oh, add something around this area," it depends on what they are telling you to add. If it's changing animation and it's very drastic change, I would do this method. If it's adding something new, um, depends what you need to add. I would just basically select all the keys on the character. Let's say they are telling you to add, I don't know, some motion around here, and you know it's going to take you 50 frames, or you estimate, because sometimes you don't know. You're just like, maybe it will take me 50 frames. I don't know. You can select all the controls and go to the timeline. And for example, I don't have many controls here, but if you shift and drag, you can select many keys, and then you just move them around. That's one method. Or you can even move them around here like this. That could be another method. But again, it depends. If it's for this, what I've mentioned right now, I would personally just put a key here, put a key there, delete everything in between, and do it with your new reference. Does that make sense? Did that make sense in terms of how at least I would approach it? And Fatima, no problem. That sounds good. If you want to show audios, that's more than fine too. Again, I don't know if you already have them kind of approved or not or what, but feel free. Whatever you guys need. But yeah, let me know if that made sense in terms of how to add animation in the middle. In terms of the mixing reference, that's basically how I would do it. And usually if I have different references, I just make sure that my timing is correct here in my reference. If you are not sure how to adjust reference, I think we have it somewhere. Let me send it to you guys, because I did a demo on how I uh, do reference and how I analyze reference and how I set it up in Maya, and that might help you out. Let me just try and find it. Here it is. So I think it was like, yeah, it says 35 minutes. It's not really that long, but I think you would only need kind of the beginning. So feel free to check that out, and maybe that's going to help you, because it would be useful if you use reference here in an image plane to have it basically so that it starts at frame 91 and continues over there. Yeah, no problem. So again, for this part, I would basically just reshoot reference, because the mechanics would change if you're going to try this. And I think it would be very useful. But again, try to have the broom on the other side and then just go from this to this. And that's going to be faster and snappier. And you're probably not even going to have like from here, it goes from like 93 to 164. It might not go that long. It might go to like 120. So you're also going to lose a lot of frames, and that's going to be way easier to spline and polish. We always like things that make us do less, because less is more. Let's go with that. That less is more. Just let me. Okay. And I think here it would be very, very funny if instead of looking at it as quickly as he does, maybe he does that and it starts to break and he only looks at it after it broke. So he's like, ha, it breaks. And he's like, I think it would um, make the comedic effect even funnier because it's like he doesn't even react and realize what he's done. I think we can also push this pose maybe a little bit more, kind of pushing that line of action. Oops. Kind of also following the idea of this guy that's a little bit more like that. I think that also could look very strong. Yeah, that could also work. It's basically, this is your creative moment. If that is what you like, you can do that. The thing that I would say though is always try to think about why. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I'm just saying think about why. Why would he spin? Why would you add the spin? Like, what's the significance behind the spin? Because we always need to think about every action that we do needs to have a reason for it to be. If it's like, I don't know, you want to do something super cartoony, that's more than fair, but I don't know if you established here that this would be a cartoony world. So that's kind of up to you. But yeah, you can definitely have him spin. That's more than possible. You can also shoot quick reference for that as well if you're unsure, to try to basically test your ideas out before going into Maya. You can do a normal spin and do the motion, and then you retime it in Maya or in a um, video editing software so that you adjust the speed to what you need, because usually it's really hard for us to spin as fast as we can spin a character. And then you test it out before you go into Maya, like, oh, would this idea work? That's another option. Yeah, me too. The thing with cartoony is that you need to be careful because um, if you didn't establish that the world is cartoony, it might come out kind of out of the blue for a character to suddenly do something cartoony. But it's up to you again. It's also up to your, who's your mentor, by the way, just to double check. Okay, cool. Oh, I had her in class too. That was really cool. Um, if but like if you want it to be a little bit more cartoony, like the sweeps could be maybe like a little bit snappier and a little bit more forceful, and then he looks very quick or something, or maybe very, very, very slow. Like that's where you start pushing things. Um, if you want to try the spin, try it out because maybe you end up really liking it and then that works. And yeah, definitely remember to make this faster. And I would maybe, because this will be faster, I'm going to comment on this as if it were the actual speed. But basically, I would have him in this pose kind of looking like you have him to the front. I would have this pose up until here, where the vase is, or vase? The thing. So I can't remember how to English. Is uh is kind of almost completely broke, like completely on the floor, and that's when I would turn around and look. So he stays in that pose for a very very long, not very long time, like as the um thing I don't know how to pronounce it, breaks. So that's even going to be more cartoony because right now it's like he's anticipating what's going to happen, whereas in the other way he doesn't react until it's way too late. Because here he's looking at it, um he could have gone and tried something, but if he just does that and it breaks, then he looks at it, it's like he didn't have even enough time to react. Okay, let me look at the mechanics of this. So when you go into your polish, what I would recommend, that this is something that has helped me a lot, is to put motion trails on different parts of the body and track that, and is going to make it like you're gonna see very easily this part. You mean this this that you wanted to make this slow and oops? Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, that's fantastic. I would put basically first a motion trail on the hips and put and track it so that you can see the arcs and the spacing way more easily. I don't know if you're already doing that, because for example here, from like in this area, the chest is moving quite a bit, but the hips are staying in place in all of this area. So as his chest is coming forward, what you can do is have kind of, it's like a slight anticipation with the hips the other way, where the hips are going to come a little bit more to the side. And usually when we do things like this, when the are going to change sides, what you can do is have an ease out, then the spacing gets bigger, then an ease here, and then it goes the other way. So basically every time that you change direction, you're going to slow down a little bit and then you're going to keep going. Because right now what's happening is the chest is moving a lot, but the hips are staying completely in place. So it would be nice to have a little bit of give with the hips for that motion. And then you would basically go straight into this where the hips are going to screen left. And I think because you want to play with the how slow and oops it is, you could even push how slow it is even more here. So right now this motion is feeling a little bit fast. So if this motion here, all of this, were a little bit slower, I think you would even push that idea further, because you said like kind of slow and oops. So right now what's happening is oops, that I feel like the broom moves a little bit fast. Let me see if changing this, that might be a little bit too slow. It's just a little bit. And also I would adjust the spacing of the broom. Let me just check. Because I think what's happening right now, if we look at the hand, which I'm guessing is what's driving the motion, and we turn on motion trails, sorry, my tracking. I feel like here the spacing is getting too big too fast. We have like a little bit of ease, and then it pops down on this frame, and then it moves really fast, and then it stops um, very softly. So what I would do is basically, because it feels like he's pushing the broom down instead of feeling more, oh no, what have I done? So what I would do is basically here, if we look at the spacing, right now the hand is moving forward, but it's not coming down at all. So what you can do is basically by the time you get to 240, maybe the hand is over here. Or that's maybe too much. So that from what is it, like 234 to 240, the hand is progressively starting to come down a little bit more. And then this spacing, it would kind of slowly get bigger, but not as fast as you have it. But we're still kind of in the same idea. It's just slowing this down a little bit. Maybe even in this one isn't the same. And that's going to give you a more feeling of uh, a slow reaction. Let me just turn this off and see how this plays. Even that might be a little bit fast, but it's a little bit less pushed. Does that make sense? Cool. Here also, right now, I think you can push this shoulder further down when you get into this pose, because right now the shoulder from here to here, it doesn't feel very connected. And if you look at my shoulder, if I'm here, when I move this down, look at how much my shoulder moves, because actually that movement starts in the shoulder. So we need a little bit more motion there when that arm is down. And I would maybe not have the elbows so far in. I would maybe have it outwards. Because right now it's feeling a little bit um, uncomfortable how he's grabbing the broom. So if you just bring the elbow out, it's going to feel a little bit more natural. And even here, you're bringing this hand down, bring this elbow down, and that's going to also push this elbow further down. And then you're going to avoid things with the shoulder being down. You're going to avoid this very, very straight and then this bend, because this is going to be a little bit more bent. And then as he brings it up here, that's when your shoulders would come up a little bit. Don't be afraid of using the shoulders. I think even she has a really good blog post about shoulders. I'm pretty sure I've seen it. No, I've seen it. So definitely recommend reading that blog post if it ever loads. Yep. I have bad memory except for links. So this is a very interesting thing for anyone who wants to learn more about shoulders. Okay, cool. I have no idea what that effect is, but I'll check it later. I think I would also slow down how his chest comes down. I basically what I would do is make sure that the broom starts moving and then the chest follows, because right now it feels like everything is moving at the same time. The broom and the chest are coming down at the same time. So I would start with the broom starts first and then the um the chest. So maybe by this time when the broom is around here, the chest is a little bit more upright. So you're delaying this motion a little bit more. And basically, because right now what's happening is he hits this pose with the rotation of the body, and then he stays in that rotation in X for this whole motion. So if you delay the chest for a few frames, or several frames actually, what that's going to give you is that all of this motion, that chest is going to keep coming down. And that's going to make it flow a little bit nicer. So all around here, maybe even here, the chest is still a little bit more upright, but it's starting to rotate down. And then as he's going into this, that's you can even ever so slightly push it more down. And here right now, again, like we were mentioning before, the I would move the hips to screen right as a kind of slight anticipation. As this is everything coming down, I would like around here, what is it? Around this frame, I would push the hips down a little bit so that basically the hips are going to be doing this motion. Right now they are doing this. They are just coming up. They are suddenly moving screen left and up. So it's nice to have the hips moving arcs a little bit more. So if you just bring the hips to screen right and then a little bit down, it's going to give you that nice motion and a little bit more of like a breaking up how everything is moving. Be careful of things like this when suddenly the arm pops. It could be because of a constraint or something like that, but also like I see the wrist is having that same problem. Just make sure that you adjust that so that it doesn't suddenly pop. Also, as he's um, bringing, basically the shoulders here would be a little bit higher, like we mentioned before. I don't know why I keep saying we, but I feel like it's like the nice way of saying we. As he's bringing the broom down, the shoulders, oops, are going to come down, and that's also going to help you with this because I'm guessing you left the hand in maybe IK. Just so that it doesn't feel so straight and you relax that arm a little bit more. Also, be careful here. The foot is suddenly going through the ground. I'm not sure if you're using foot roll. I would recommend using foot roll instead of foot rotation for this part. And I would maybe even keep the foot, this one, in the pose that you have in 280 up until frame 286. So keep that there without lifting it, without anything, so that you shift the weight and then you lift the foot. Because in order for us to be able to lift one of our feet, we need to shift our weight first. So I would keep that foot for at least 6 more frames. Yeah. I mean, I should actually get more tea, but my kettle is too loud, so and I don't have any more tea, so it's okay. I'm not as bad as the Prats. I I actually drink tea during the day. And usually actually right now it's 7 p.m. I can't drink a lot of liquids after 7. And this is going to sound very dumb, but if I do, then I'm up all night going to the bathroom. So usually kind of 7-ish is my cutoff. It's like, okay, I only drink a little bit with a meal, but if not, I will regret it. Or alcohol if I'm on a night out, but that doesn't make me go to the bathroom a lot. TMI. And right now, also what I would do, which would be really nice, is right now, yay, I'm not alone in this. Um, right now, what's happening is the hips kind of stay in this position. They kind of hit a wall, and then you shift the weight, which the weight shift, perfect, love it. What I would do instead of having the hips completely stay in place is because you're still moving the feet, the feet, yeah, the foot actually. See how the foot is still moving here. So you can still keep shifting this weight, and by this frame, what is it, frame? Maybe even frame 298, the hips are still, we're still moving to screen right because you're still shifting the weight. Sometimes when we shift weights, we kind of overshoot the hips and then adjust them and come back. So up until like 298, you can keep moving those hips. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little bit so that it doesn't feel like suddenly they stop moving because right now they hit 295 and they don't move. So if you keep shifting the weight, it's going to break that up. And then basically from 298, just have them go into what you have. So it's just adjusting before that area. And when you're shifting the weight here, what I would also do, which is going to add, again, a little bit of arcs. Let me just, is right now, if I look at his hips, it feels like they are moving very flat horizontally. So around here, maybe I would bring the hips ever so slightly up. So that basically when you're shifting that weight, you're doing this type of arc, a little bit of down and up. Because you already have a little bit of down here, see how the hips are coming down? That's fantastic. Maybe like 306 stays as it is. And from 306 to like, what is it? 313, they move up a little bit, like kind of the same amount that you're moving them down here, you would move them up at the end. And that's going to be super, super nice because you're going to have a nice arc, and that's going to give you also a free arc in the chest and in the nose. And we love free arcs. Free arcs are our friends. At least they are in this stream. And then here I would maybe like, should he be two options. Either like one of them is you bring the shoulder down a little bit, just just a tiny bit, so that this is a little bit more out. Or another option that you can do is everything is like he's looking at it and he's feeling a little bit more um embarrassed about what happens, because right now you have the idea of he's like this, so he's putting his arm in front of his body. That kind of the feeling of protection, like he wants to protect himself, he's a little bit shy about what just happened. You can push this in two different ways. If you're going to keep the shoulders down, you can sunk him in a little bit more, so he's everything is like this. Or, which would require less change, you can potentially bring the shoulders up so that the embarrassment is felt throughout here as well. And it feels like also everything is more tense because it's like, oh no, instead of just having it here where it's a little bit more casual. Try it out. I would consider it. And you can basically get into those shoulder positions when you start getting into this. When he does this, you can bring those shoulders up. I think, let me look at this part. And again, I don't want to give you also too many notes, because if you're going to show this either next week, or you potentially, I personally would not work on pantomime until you finish class 4, because at least I know that from a few friends of mine, you should be already doing the dialogue. And trust me, that one is intense. So, like, take these notes, write them down, and forget about them until the end of the class. Trust me, I've been through AM. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. That's why I also don't want to give you too many notes, so that you can focus on the main areas, and then you can keep polishing this basically forever. Because I've been through AM. The pantomime assignment is way too quick for what they are asking. Only people who have been in the industry can do it in the time frame that they give you, which is not the idea, because the AM is for students. Or whatever. So in this area, the main thing that I would adjust is the spacing of the hips, and that's where I'm gonna leave it, and I'm gonna let you um, adjust it. And you can come to these streams as many times as you want. Like I mentioned, Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. PST, we have Daniel. I am on Thursdays at 11 a.m. PST, and Madison is at 1 p.m. PST. Um, So feel free to come to any for more feedback. So here, I think I would delay the hips moving sideways so that he's staying a little bit closer to this position. He's still moving, but maybe by this frame, it's not as far screen uh, right. And the reason for this is that right now it feels like he's shifting his weight and suddenly the hips here are only coming down. They are coming down with uh, a little bit of forward momentum, but if you look at the spacing of, hang on, here, sorry, this takes a while. There we go. It feels, first it feels a little bit even, and then it feels like it slows down in translation forward a little bit here because it's only coming down. So if you can adjust the spacing so that it's tighter here and it's a nice ease out, and then um once he basically gets to this pose, then he can go fast. But right now the it feels like he suddenly slows down here. So I would, oops, where's my ghosting? Basically the easiest way to fix it is just fixing the translation, just having the hips more screen left in this moment, in this pose. And even potentially in this one, sorry about the loud noises, the hips could also be a little bit further back. And be careful here, it feels a little bit like his foot is kind of stuck in place a little bit. If you want to do that thing of kind of like the casual lifting of the foot and then planting it, I think you can push that by just having this a little bit higher and basically having the hips even more further back. That's going to give you more that idea. Like even, sorry, more than this. Because all of his weight will still be on this foot. So you're kind of holding um, the body a little bit more in this moment. Because right now you're moving towards the next pose a little bit too quickly, if that makes any sense. And then check your spacing on the run here as well, because you are having this very big spacing and suddenly it stops here and then it continues. So I would personally maybe just remove a few frames, like up to frame 333, fantastic. This one is getting a little bit too close, so I would maybe just remove it. Maybe remove this one as well. And also be careful here, the toes are going and the foot is going through the ground. And then maybe just go straight into this one. Just make sure that once he starts running, if at the beginning we had that tight spacing, once he starts running, his spacing is going to be even. So those hips, every frame, are going to move the same amount in space. And like, let me just visually show you with circles. Okay. See how you were like the circles are very far apart and suddenly they're very close together and then they are far apart again. Basically, um that's why I'm saying remove this one, and potentially even maybe remove this one or just adjust it so that if this is where the hips were, you can just adjust it a little bit more forward, and then maybe this one will be more forward. Um, because it seems like he's moving one hip size per frame. So I think that's going to help you a lot because right now when I play it, it feels like he suddenly stopped and then he continued. And for a run like this, I would just use the usual body mechanics, which is just having the spacing of the hips even. I don't want to overwhelm you with too many notes because already changing this is going to be a kind of like a creative challenge. Do you have any questions about this? Just let me check if anyone has posted any other links. No. Okay, cool. So if you don't have any questions, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Um, we honestly also, if you come to any of our other streams, we can get very carried away with feedback. That's why I try to not give too much, because if not, it's way too much. But yeah, good luck. Focus on your audio shot. Do not worry about this until the end of the term. Trust me. You want to use your time wisely. Cool. Feel free to come again and show it. Awesome. Okay. So, ooh, yay. Cool. I haven't seen this in a while. Maybe it's been a week, but clearly my brain um, thinks it's been longer. So, let me check. Are you here? Yes. Uh, let me see this.
Ding dong, I know you can hear me. Open up the door. I only wanna play a little. Ding dong, you can't keep me waiting. It's already too late for you to try and run away. I see you through the window.
This is gonna look
Ding
so
dong, I know
cool.
you can hear me. Open.
Let's just take a time to appreciate how cool this is going to look. I do have a few notes on the poses, but I think the idea is getting stronger and stronger and it makes me really happy because it's like super cool seeing how it evolved and it's getting creepier and creepier. It's like, yeah, this is gonna look so awesome. So, um, let's check out your poses. This is super fun. I really love how you're playing with the body angle and the hips. I think potentially we could ever so slightly push it, but I kind of like this what you have. But I wonder if you could push it even more, having the hips a little bit more screen left. Sorry, I clearly need a little bit of like my brain needs to just a little bit more so that you have an even stronger line of action, and then you can have this hand more out in silhouette. I think that could be interesting. And then that's also going to change basically a little bit of this negative space that you have on the legs. Love. And basically, because here you have it a little bit more push, but I think that you could even push, like basically it's the same idea. But here it feels better because I think the camera angle is helping you. Um, so even if you copied the exact same pose, because the camera angle is different, here is way stronger than here just because of the camera angle. Oh no, caffeine does nothing for me. If I drink coffee, I go to sleep. It makes me sleepy. If I drink like Red Bull, I can drink two of them and go straight to sleep. So I just have to keep going. I don't have anything that can help me. Yeah. Yay. I think here for this pose, I think we can strengthen this also a little bit. I'm loving what's happening with the body and everything, but it's mostly the hand. It's feeling a little bit foreshortened, a little bit too much, so it's not that easy to read. So maybe if you just bring this out ever so slightly more, I think it might read a little bit better. It's just a little bit. And then for the hand, I can't see it very clearly here because of um because it's so far away. When I zoom it in, it's not as clear. But one thing that you can do is maybe play with scaling the hand ever so slightly. I'm not saying a lot, just a little bit more so that we see it a little bit, maybe like this big in total, like a little bit bigger. And like maybe push the fingers, because right now it feels like the fingers are doing this, and so we don't see the fingers because they are kind of, again, they are each part is foreshortened and kind of on top of each other, if that makes any sense. So instead of having it like this, you can have this, something like this, where maybe a few fingers are a little bit higher than others, and then you have also kind of an arc going through the fingers. You're kind of doing that, and that's also going to give you more. And if that's not enough, maybe also you can slightly change the angle of the hand. I'm thinking I wouldn't draw it because I can't draw even circles, as you guys have seen. So trying to draw hands would be even worse. So that's why I'm just posing it as I go. Maybe also, instead of having it like this, you can tilt it a little bit. So right now it's kind of, you have a little bit of a tilt, but you can have a little bit more, and that's might help so that that tilt is a little bit more pushed. Okay, there we go. Ah, I'm really excited about this shot. Like, it's gonna look so cool. Oh no, this halves are not model material. And also the reason for this, for to change the pose of the arm a little bit, is so that you can have a little bit more negative space. And it doesn't have to be even a lot. Like maybe this might be pushing it too much. Like the hand can be here, but like even as the camera, like here, see how it feels like the thumb is very close to the head, and even this, it feels a little bit. So it's just separating that a little bit is going to help with how it reads way better. Whoops. I'm so smart, I forgot to. What rig is this? I don't. Have I seen this rig before? Like, what rig is this?
Open up the door. I only open up.
I'm not gonna comment too much on this pose because I think that when you go through the other poses to get the flow, this pose is going to change. Not this one, sorry. This one. So, because right now, for example, since she's throwing that, if this is the throwing pose, you can look at this line of action that you have in the body. Like you can push it. That's why I I would rather you um, block this a little bit more, but in terms of this pose in particular. But I'm pretty sure that you can push this to be a little bit more. Whoosh. That is not even a strong pose. Like if this is after she throws, depends on which pose is this. If this is as she's throwing, you can push a little bit more line of action like this. And after she throws, then you can go into this and it could be even more pushed. But again, one I usually hey Ayub, shut up. My driveways are not going to be like this. I'm going to explain that in a bit. But basically, sometimes when we do this type of poses, um, it's just kind of to have an idea of where they're gonna go. But then when you start blocking things out, you're like, oh, I can just push this more because I don't know, the hips need to move a little bit further. So we're gonna see more of that the more you block. But this is just a rough idea of what I would do it depending on where the pose is. And also for anyone who doesn't know, drive-bys in our uh at our work is kind of like dailies. Why are they called drive-bys? I have no idea. And my drive-bys are not gonna be that long because I don't have the time for that. We only have 20 minutes. So we can't do that. No, don't. So for this one, because you're coming from that where you're gonna, I think you were gonna grab this from this when you were. Oh, because this week I started being a lead in the project that we're working on. I'm gonna be a lead basically until the end of the project, which will be end of January. Why? Uh, I don't know. I think they bumped their heads really hard, and I was the only one available. I would maybe push because you have already this leg. Kind of, it feels like you can flow that line of action. Whoops! No, come back. Oh, I lost the drawing. So she can grab this and you can have that flowing a little bit more. And that's also going to let you flow down as well, if that makes any sense. Thank you. I'm scared and we'll see. Maybe doing all of this daily helps. And I know exactly what I'm doing. I love this pose of yours. I love like, your face and everything is awesome. No, done. Thank you. We need to get that merch going. I need Madison to design something and then I can translate it and make it into things that are printable because I can't draw, but Madison can. I can't draw even cubes. So feel free, Madison, when you hear this, never. I'm going to message her later. I think you can push this one even more because it feels like we're forgetting that she's a broken doll. So I think that you can even push this kind of like you had at the beginning and like even push this going kind of back to the idea that you had at the beginning and maybe even the head could even be straight like you have it so that it's kind of more creepy, or you can have it like this and then it's like creepy with another. Oh no, what happened with the rig? What rig is this again? You probably said it, but I may have missed the message. And like this. And maybe even here she has the thing. What? What? Do you, if you want to send me the file with the rig imported into the file because I don't have this rig, and we can either check it out now or we can I can look at it later after this. Yeah, that's very weird. It could be that the rig is broken. It could be that there's a weird thing going on. Yeah, it's not a bug, it's a feature. Exactly. Um, yeah, if you want to send me your file, this file here, with the rig imported, and I can take a look, because maybe there's something weird going on and we can find the way to fix it. Oh, hey, you know what your stuff. You can do a nice proxy rig. That's way more than I can. Like I've rigged in the past and it was horrible. Nightmares. This one, um, we can also push it a lot more. Kind of like the line of action that you have with the body. Your body is a little bit more pushed like this. So I would kind of bring the hips a little bit more to the side. Uh, After this, I'm gonna get so much food because it seems like my brain is slowly dying. No, yeah. If not, send it with WeTransfer. Let me just, yeah, zip it, and then you can use WeTransfer and just send me the link on a private message if you want. And you can bring this leg even higher and have this on kind of tiptoes. I think it would help. This is feeling a little bit of not very cool. Okay, cool. Cool, because I do have Maya here, so we can check it now. Let me just finish this and then I'm gonna look at what's happening because that's very weird. Maybe hopefully we can find a way. Sometimes it's something dumb. Sometimes it's your Maya. Because I remember Dan and I had a student who had a problem with his constraints, and I opened the file. It works for me. I think Dan opened it on his, and it worked for him. And it turns out it was something with his Maya that there was a problem. So we're gonna check that too while we're at it. Here you can do this, where it's more like a little bit more pushed. This is not the best pose ever. Sorry. There we go. So let's try it again, because clearly I have no idea what I'm doing. She could also be even more creepy, would be if um it's kind of rotating way weird than it should be. And it's kind of ballet like. So it's like a little bit more broken in the spine. Oh, did you rig it? Or no, you said you like, had the rig, so. Oh, maybe it's that. I'm gonna check. No, but if you did you paint the weight? Okay. Okay. That could be something mm, that could be it. It could be just that the weight, there's like a little bit of something attached to that. And that could be for this. I wonder maybe you can do this type of pose, and I think it's going to read more like she's reading her wrist, because then we're gonna have a very clear view of the wrist. Yeah, I downloaded it. Okay, I let me check. I downloaded both now. So after this, I'm gonna do that. And you can even push this a little bit further out. So for this anticipation, I think you can push it even further down so that there's a little bit more. And you can even play here with the hands getting creepy. Because I think that your hand posing is going to be very important in this shot because you can play with suddenly, like, it's not the same having a soft pose than a strong one with the fingers are very tense and you see very harsh angles. So I think that if you can take it out, I think it's going to feel much better. And as she's diving, I think I would try to maybe keep it a little bit more straight just to have like a nice line of action. You can have the leg a little bit out, but the stronger the line of action, usually the better. This is gonna look so cool. I'm very excited.
You can't keep me waiting, it's already too late for you to try and run away. I see you through the window.
Cool. Oh, yeah, there was another pose. Um, let me check. I wonder, because I remember here. No, I said here. You had this where she would come really, really close. I think that could be an interesting thing to play out where you end up with the rig very, very close. Maybe like the hand is here. Whoops. No. That's whatever I was, the rough drawing, but whatever. Like it could come very, very close. And you can have like a very creepy smile. Maybe she has like you can change the teeth so they're creepy, and like the face is going to basically sell the whole idea. I think that's going to push it even more. But depends on how you come into this pose. Like, oh, it will depend. But I think the closer you get, the creepier it's going to look, and that's going to look really cool. Let me open this file just to check. Where did I put it? Downloads. Is it this? Nope. It's this. I don't know what that one was. Is this? No, it's not the rig, I guess. I think we can ignore. And this, we have it. Let me unzip this. And we're gonna find what is going on. Okay. No, because we're gonna just look at the rig, so it should be fine. Okay, let's look at what's happening with this. So, what was it that you said that was happening with this? When is it that the hands change the scale? Oops. Like this? Or is it like in a... Or is it in an FIK moment? When you say the main position, you mean just like this, moving the everything? I'll answer that question in a bit. Um, I don't see. Is this also an IK hand? No. And the transfer to. Oh, hang on. I think I might not be understanding exactly what the problem is, and that's why. Or do you mean the this? Oh, this. Oh, okay. I'm guessing you mean this ones. Okay. Let me go to this. It's not. Let me choose the other one. It doesn't seem to change the size for me. Let me try. Was it that you said that it was changing the size of the hands? Okay. Uh, pose in which frame? Like in this pose? Mm, do you have any constraints on the hands? I'm just going through a few poses and see. Because if I move this one, everything stays the same? Maybe it could be okay. I feel like this like a jump scare, like move closer. Where were we? Like they had this one. And you said the left hand, you mean the actual left hand or the screen left hand? Just to double check. Right? Okay. And then let me look at this one. Mm, I don't think it's happening to me. Right hand. Also, just to let me just check something. Kiss at 2 1 2. Okay. I'm also going to tell you something about um the root 2 1 2. Sorry, my brain is a little bit dead. So yeah, this pose. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, Ayub. um, rotations don't change. No, it's not changing the size for me. But basically, yeah, I was going to tell you what Ayub was saying. Right now, the way that you've animated, and that's why I also wanted to check the graph. I don't know if you did this maybe just for layout. If it's for layout, moving these controllers, it's fine. Just for layout. And when we talk about layout or previs, it's basically just to have an idea of where the character is going to be. When you actually animate, don't move don't move these controllers. Do not move them unless you're doing a walk cycle and you're moving kind of like the offset. That's different. But if you're going to do an animation like what you're doing right now, don't move the root. Animate by moving the hips and then translating the feet and everything, but don't move the root. This pose, Yeah, exactly. No, it could be a bug on your Maya, because in this one, uh, this hand is okay, and then this one, oops. Yeah, it could be your Maya. It could be there's a bug in your Maya. Which version of Maya do you have, and um which service pack? If you have 2019, I think Service Pack 4 is the stable one in the cog. Okay. But again, this we don't animate it, so I would not do that. Which one? I'm guessing any of this could be the cog. Just double checking. Nope. The hand stays the same. It could be again, it could be I would double check your Maya version because sometimes I think I have service pack for this one. Not really. It seems like the same size. Like if even if I move it around, it seems the same size. But it's not like the size isn't changing when I move it. Um, Let me see. Maybe. Do you have? There's not that much there. Let me see here. No. Trying to see if there's anything here that could potentially create any problems. Again, I don't know this rig, so I'm kind of figuring it out as it goes. Mm, okay, so hang on. It could be something here, but let me see where it is. Because you have a constraint, it would seem. Why is there a constraint? Oh, there's a locator. Oh, okay, okay, okay. That's why. This has nothing to do though with the fingers. If the hand is like, if you find that the hand is overall smaller, but it's not changing as you animate, then potentially you could try seeing if scaling the whole hand. For me, I don't see it happening in terms of as I move. You could potentially. That's so funny. Look at this. um, but I don't see the like when I move controllers, I don't see the the hand changing size. So first what I would do is if this was just a layout pass, that's more than okay. If this is your gonna be your animation, remove all of the animation here. No animation on these controllers. No, no. It's a no-no. It's also going to be very hard for you to move into spline when you move into spline because you're going to have to keep track of too many things. And if I tell you, oh, fix the hips, you might need to go to the root. And also because in production, usually we don't animate these controllers. We only animate the offset, which is this inner one, if we're doing a walk cycle, for example, or a run cycle. Basically, where sometimes, depending on the studio, sometimes the cycles are done in place and then you move the offset. But for shots like this, I would just place those two controllers and forget that they exist. Like, I sometimes even hide them. I literally put the controllers in a layer, only this ones if it's possible, and then hide them. In this case, you can't, but you can just forget that they exist. Yeah, I honestly right now I don't see it happening. But again, if the problem happens when you move this controller in your Maya file and in your Maya session and everything, it's going to be resolved when you basically don't move that anymore. And if the problem is with this, again, I would maybe check your Maya version, um, and see if you can update, because it could be that as well. An animator, or also like everyone else in the pipeline, because maybe they're like, I'll just change this here, and then you're like, no. Um, hopefully that will stop the problem. Do you have any questions about the feedback that I gave you, or we all good? I love seeing the progress of shots like this. Cool. Sounds good. Yeah, if you find the link to the rig, definitely send it, because I've never seen this rig before and it's a very interesting one. It has like Aya vibes, but with interesting eyes. So yeah, cool. So next we have someone. I don't know who this is, because I opened a lot of other links and I thought, yeah, no problem. And if anyone has any other links that they would like me to check out, feel free to send me a Sync Sketch link. Uh, if you send it to me on Discord, just let me know, because I might not see it. Sure. It's a me, Mario. Cool. Okay, cool. So this is your audio assignment, right? Let me just go through, because I haven't seen what's the latest idea. I don't know anything, so I'm gonna get used to it. So if I know correctly, you only have to submit your key poses for this week. So that's like super cool, because you don't have to go super crazy with your blocking. Okay, everyone feel free to read. I'm not gonna read out loud, because I hate reading out loud unless it's something very small. Cool. I mean, mood. Sometimes I don't want to go outside as well. Ooh, deep. Okay. Ooh, I see, this for me works way better than what you had last week. Last week, um, it didn't feel as strong, and now it feels like you've fleshed out the character way more, and you have your backstory. So I think this is fantastic. Okay, let me play first this. Hang on. I probably, do I have it muted? No. Do I have the sound? Okay.
If I had have been a rat, granted, I probably would have had a rat girlfriend, and she would have joined me in my cheese feast. It's just, you get a heartbreak as a human. If I had have been a rat, granted, I probably would have had a rat girlfriend, and she would have joined me in my cheese feast. It's just, you get a heartbreak as a human.
Cool. And just to double check, has Ray seen this last reference and has he approved it? Okay, okay, cool. Is this one the new one? That's what I. Cool.
If I had have been a rat, Granted, I probably would have had a rat girlfriend, and she would have joined me in my cheese feast. It's just, you get a heartbreak as a human.
Cool. Is this one? Has he seen it? Has he approved it? Does he have any? Okay, good. Just to like double check and good because it's Thursday. If you don't have it approved by now, that's trouble. um. Okay. So. Ooh, cool. Who gave this really like clean way of giving? Like, look at that handwriting. Wow. I'm not as clean as whoever gave you notes. Um, that's very interesting. I agree with this. Whoever it was. Yeah. Also, what is this? I'm scared to open it, but now I'm intrigued. Also, an hour ago. Who was it? I'm gonna open it to the side. Ooh, actually, we can show this. That's cool. That's really cool. So, yeah. Cool. You're very clean in how you give notes, which is the opposite of myself. So let me play this.
If I had have been a rat, granted, I probably would have had a rat girlfriend, and she would have joined me in my cheese feast. It's just, you get a heartbreak as a human.
Cool. I think overall it's working pretty well. um, I do have a few suggestions. And yeah, I agree with the tangent and everything. Ooh, the rig. Uh, I wonder, can we maybe slightly bring his head forward and down a little bit with his neck ever so slightly more there? Maybe. Do you just want feedback on the first four poses or everything? This feedback is AJ's. Super clean. Yeah, for sure. Um, I think I do agree smaller pupil for sure because right now the pupil is so big that uh he feels a little bit drugged, which is the problem with these rigs that when they first adjust. And then this sometimes is a very hard shape to achieve with the eyebrows on Jules, but if you can, that'd be awesome. What I would try also is to maybe like piggying back off from what uh this AJ drew is to maybe lower this a little bit more and then maybe just angling that mouth ever so slightly more so that you're opening up the face this way. And basically, the idea is that this eye, because you're going to also lower this eyebrow, this eye is going to be ever so slightly smaller than this one. This one has to be bigger so that it's opening up that way. Here, I wonder if he should be looking kind of like at his um at his headphones and where the sound came because right now it feels like he's just looking out into the distance, but he could be looking more into his headphones. Let me also see something from your reference. I kind of also like how pushed you are. Um, you could potentially push it more, but I don't know if this is the moment to push it.
If I if I had have been a rat, granted, I
Maybe here, instead of just going to the side, you can bring him up a little bit more, like he perks up. Because I'm guessing like because what the person said was really bad and really mean, you can just perk him up a little bit, because right now it just feels like he just does this. But if he perks up, he's going to be like, and that's going to be more like, whoa.
If I
And maybe this hand, like the fingers can get off the keyboard, like instead of just staying there, he's like, and potentially, again, this will depend on how you end up moving from one pose to the other. But like, even see how here your eyes, you want it to kind of look there. So here, two options.
if I had
You can have him surprised or angry, but right now you're kind of in between the two with the eyebrows. So either you have him more angry, which I personally wouldn't, because you can use that angry shape later, or you can, for this one, push it higher. And this looks a little bit sad, so not like that. I'm not the best at doing any type of drawings apparently today, so kind of bring them higher up. And I think you can bring this mouth corner a little bit further out. It's feeling a little bit like the mouth is very, very small.
if I if I
Cool. I think here you can push. This is where
had
we
a
start
I
pushing
had
the eyebrows. You can here bring them further down and closer together. So kind of like the eyebrows are kind of becoming the upper lid a little bit, so that they are lower, and we kind of don't necessarily, we just see this part of the lid rather than uh, the whole upper lid.
had a
Whoops. What? I wanted to come here. Why did I look at the other?
if I if 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 I had had if I had if I had
Maybe you can even angle this ever so slightly in RC, just a tad more. Like like this is too much. So like 50% of what I drew here, but like a little bit more tilt, slight tilt to that. And maybe bring this shoulder higher, and you can bring this slightly higher so that you maintain the um, negative space. Even here, I would bring this shoulder also maybe higher, maybe even here, this both of them a little bit.
have been a rat, granted.
I think I would try to get a little bit of a more interesting hand shape, because right now uh it's just a little bit flat. We don't really read that much. So maybe he says granted. Maybe there's like a little bit of more separation to those fingers. Maybe it's just like these two are a little bit more separated. And maybe there's also a little bit of an angle, because right now the hand is kind of staying the same. So maybe it could be a little bit more angled. And that might make it also a little bit more appealing. What hand shape did you
If
make?
I had been a rat, granted.
See, like even you like do a little bit more of an open hand.
If I had been a rat, granted.
So I would definitely just bring this like this, and just have a few of the fingers kind of like that.
Granted, I probably would have had a rat. I would have probably
Um, not necessarily opening it to camera, but like tilting the hand. Like right now, this is what you have. Basically, like tilting it down a little bit, potentially ever so slightly rotating to camera a little bit, and just adjusting those fingers so that they are not like this, but they are more like this. And I think even like this would be enough. But definitely already getting this with the wrist angle is going to be better than just feeling like that. It's going to feel, because it's going to feel more like he just like granted, like ugh.
I probably would have had a rat girlfriend. I would have had
I want to go back to
a
reference just to see if
I probably would
there's
have
anything
had
we
a
can take.
rat girlfriend. She would have.
Okay.
If I had have been a rat, granted, I probably would have had a rat girl.
I'm not a very big fan of this moment in
Rat
terms of the
would have
hand. Let me think about it. Maybe you can just. I wonder. Maybe just try it out. It just feels like this pose. It feels a little bit awkward. Like it could be an in between, but not a key pose. You know, like an in between, fine. A key pose, maybe you can just keep the hand here so that it kind of feels like
I probably would
when
have
he does this, the hand stays a little bit behind. So when he turns around, like he's like, granted, whoosh, and so the hand is gesturing and everything a little bit more out in silhouette. Maybe try it out. It might not work, but worth a
had
try.
a rat girlfriend, and she would have joined me. A rat girlfriend.
Yeah.
Rat girl.
I would bring this elbow a little bit further out. Right now it feels a little bit too close to his body, a little bit too like this. And if you just bring it out, I think it's
Would
gonna
have
look.
had a rat girl.
And maybe potentially even bringing this shoulder a little bit further down, and maybe this one's higher, slightly higher.
Granted, I would have had a rat girl. Girlfriend. She would have. I probably would have had a rat girlfriend.
Here for
Girl.
this pose, when you get to this, I feel like this to this, the head is almost staying in the same angle. So I'm inclined to just rotate it up a little bit. Um, so that instead of the eyes being like this, they are a little bit more neutral in the angle. Because basically it feels like the body moves a lot, but the head stays. So again, as an in between, fine. As a key pose, not as strong. And you can even bring the uh, neck a little bit straighter, slightly.
Friend. And she
Um, Slight thing is not a big deal for now, but just for the future, I would try to when you post that, right now the fingers are very parallel, and usually it's kind of like everything converges around here. So if you can add like the fingers, this one's slightly coming in, it tends to be more appealing, like ever so slightly, so that it doesn't feel like all the fingers are super parallel. The same with this one. I would try it out.
she would have joined you, girl.
I'm thinking, should you? Nah, never mind.
She would have joined. Had a rat girlfriend, and she would have.
I don't know if you need this pose for this week, because it feels more like a breakdown ish. You can keep it, but it's not necessary to have it. Potentially, you can also play with maybe the hand isn't on a fist yet, and it's a little bit more open, so that when you get into this, that's when you close. So you could potentially just have like a little bit of this, and then it closes.
Would have joined me at cheese feed.
I think you can push this. Ooh, no, go back. Partially because this kind of tangent is bothering me, but also because it feels a little bit too contained, a little bit too here. And even if we see your reference,
She would have
you're kind
joined
of like coming away from it, so there is more space in
me
between, and
at
it feels like that would push your arm a little bit higher. So it was like, join me. Ayub, are you still here? Does this pose remind you of anything?
my she would have joined me
I think, um,
at
yeah, also, I feel like this angle, like this, is going to be different also from this one, and is going to feel better. And I would also bring the shoulder up. Good for you. I'm very hungry. I need food too. Yes. Does this pose remind you of anything? You don't have to say I'm just making a joke for you. Um, with Santi, we talk about this type of pose all the time.
me in my in, I've had a rat. He would have
Yeah, that's what I wanted to check.
joined me
I would also tilt the head up quite a bit more. So it's like, haha.
my cheese feast. It's just
Again, this is
feast,
more of a breakdown. So
feast,
if you don't want to add it for this week, it wouldn't be terrible.
feast. It's just
This is cool. Maybe you can push his angle a little bit more. So he's a little bit more here. So you have a little bit more of a line of action. Because with sitting down shots, that's a problem. Getting that the line of action to read is sometimes really hard.
you get a heartbreak as a human
And even this, I wonder,
in my cheese feast. Just
like this one I'm okay with in terms of where the
it's
hips are, but what if in this one, because right now it's like he's slumping down, but I don't feel it. What if you move the hips so that he actually slumps and we actually feel this? And then you can have that arm hanging. And like even this would be a little bit more like that. Something a little bit more pushed. Because right now it just feels like, eh. So I think you can push it a lot more. And that's going to be a very big contrast from this, which you can also, this one, if I keep going, you can bring the chest actually a little bit more forward rather than so far back. Just for this, because then you're gonna do this and then you can come back by like having like the chest out, like puffed and everything. And it's like, haha, join me. Yay. And then this to this is going to be a really big contrast. And also this, I think you can also push this pose to make him even more, because I feel like the longer you're in your computer, the less proper you seat. So you could potentially even push his slumpiness a little bit more so that you have like a better line of action with the, and it's mostly maybe just shifting his hips and then adjusting. Like the head can stay where it is and everything else can stay where it is. It's just getting a little bit more of a curvature in the back.
if I had have been a rat, I probably would have had a rat girlfriend. She would have joined my cheese feast. Just be heartbreak as a human.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are my notes. Do you have any questions? Also, I want to see. Oh, I remember this rig. I've seen it before. I just didn't recognize it. Interesting. I'm gonna keep it for my future endeavors, just in case. Cool, awesome, good luck. I think this is gonna be really, really cool. I really like this idea. I think it reads way better than the previous one, so good work. Yeah, it's a very cute rig. So next we have someone, because I don't know who this is. If you are here, owner of the shot, uh, please message. Hey, awesome. Anything in particular? Should I don't know anything about this show, so any caveats, or should I just watch and give feedback? I'm getting so hungry. This thing of the time change is not working for me. Yep, sounds good. Let me play it. And Sync Sketch decided to stop. Okay. Okay. Let's play it and see if Sync Sketch works this time. Okay, yeah. Cool. I think in terms of the ending, I think the main issue that I would say is the timing. It feels a little bit slow. Um, so let me see if maybe like twice as fast feels already better. So first, I would make it faster, and I think that that's going to help you a lot. And also adding a little bit more bounce. We can check this, but let me go back to this. So already like as he's falling, just make it twice as fast and it's going to already give you a way better feeling. And also in the end, I think that what you're missing a little bit is more of that bounce that your body has, even though yes, you're falling into like onto a bed or a couch or whatever. I think it's a bed. You're gonna have more bounce because of the material. Yeah, the bounce needs a little bit more. So for example, here on this frame, the hips can come already up again. So basically for this, it's just following a little bit more your reference. I think also right now, because your reference is not timed to the animation, that's also what is going to be a little bit harder. So I would just make sure that if you're gonna retime, also retime your reference when you're blocking, just so that you can go back to the reference and everything is not so far apart. But yeah, definitely like after he falls on the next pose, I would have the body go up and then come down for sure. But when you think about this, think about the hips are a bouncing ball, so is the chest, and so is the head, so is the arm, so are the arms and the legs, and basically everything kind of bounces like a bouncing ball. But let's go to the beginning. Okay, let's look at this main part. I think you can play with the timing of this as well, because right now, and this is a very common thing that we all face, our timing starts to get a little bit even in terms of the actions. And I think someone one time told me, I don't know if it's true, that that's because of our heartbeats and that's because like that's our the timing that we have. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And usually it's good to follow the reference to get the body mechanics. But what I like to do is once I have a lot of things, I start retiming. Because right now you have enough to start retiming. What would I do? I think the way he comes up to like frame 45, I think it's okay. Potentially it could be slightly faster. Like maybe up to frame 29. It's okay. Maybe you're going to feel it more in spline, but this doesn't bother me. Then from frames 30 to 61. So this 30 frames. I think this is slow. Maybe, let me see. Maybe it's just slightly making it faster. Like right now, if I put it at 30 frames per second, that feels fine. Or even 36. So it's not twice as fast, but almost. Like uh 2/3 of what you have. That's how much I would basically scale those curves. Yeah. And playing with the timing is like in Sync Sketch is really easy because of this. But then here is where I would really play with the timing. This part where he basically stands up, so like around frame 60 to frame 78, that I would make much faster because it would be really nice to play with the timing where he goes quickly up, holds that pose that you have at the top, and then comes down. So here, this, I would make it faster. So it's like, "Tutu," and then holds. So if you make it twice as fast, it could potentially work. Potentially even from frame like 56, it could be faster. Whoops. Like this would be faster. And then here, and first I'm just going to talk about retiming things because I think um, that's the first thing that I would personally work on, because if you work on the poses and then you retime, you might need to change your pose. So it's like, yeah. And then this, let me go back to the 24. I think you can hold this a little bit longer, like maybe add a few more frames. Let me see here. Just from frames 83 to like 95 or so, this area, I would just add frames. Like right now, if I play it at 18 frames per second, that feels really nice because that's going to give you a nice hold and then he drops. And then let me play this at normal speed. And then from frames 103 to maybe 134, let me see. Yeah. That's too fast. I think that around this speed would be nice. So also like 2/3. I would kind of scale it from frame again 103 to what you have now on at 134. I would make this faster so that you have again that really nice contrast between that hold at the top where he slows down and then it's like he just falls and it's like and he just lets that momentum carry him forward. All of this feels, I think it was feeling really nice. Let me play this at normal speed. I think we can push parts of it as well. Maybe from here up to here. Yeah. As he's coming down, I would also make this faster. Maybe again 2/3, so that then you have a little bit more contrast. Again, we're trying to play with basically adding more that's what your shot needs, more contrast. If I can sum it up, because I think that overall your body mechanics are working really nicely and we can push some poses for sure, but it's just the timing. So if this is a little bit faster and then you leave the rest as is in terms of the how he picks it up. Let me go back to 24. This part, then we're going to feel a little bit how that um, barrel is a little bit heavier because it's going to take a little bit longer than what it took to come down. And then we talked about the timing at the end. Okay, now we've talked about timing. Let's look at the poses. Cool. So for this is a tiny thing, but I would angle the head a little bit down and make sure that the eye line is following this, because right now it seems like he's just looking out in the horizon. So just make sure that you have him look at what you need. I wonder also, maybe you can also bring this knee a little bit more in, just so that the angle of the legs, because right now it feels like both legs are exactly the same. So maybe you can just push this in a little bit, and if it's starting to look um quote unquote too feminine, just bring the knee out a little bit. Here I think you can drag the head a little bit more. Yeah, just drag that head down, like rotate it in X. And here what's happening is that the arms are feeling a little bit like they are twinning in terms of what movement, I can't speak, they are doing. So I'm thinking maybe here this hand is coming back a little bit, and even here it's a little bit further back. So then it comes forward. I think that's going to it's going to basically swing a little bit, not as much as I'm clearly doing in real life, but like it's going to swing a little bit and then come forward. Because right now, if not, it feels like he just came to this pose and then he continues. And I think also as he's coming up, maybe this pose, his hips could be slightly more forward, ever so slightly, so that his balance is already starting to come forward. Even here, maybe I would keep a little bit more angle forward, just because like walks are controlled falls, so we tend to um, bring our weight forward for us to start walking, and right now he feels a little bit too upright. And here you're kind of in your quote unquote passing, so I would bring the hips a little bit higher so that then they come down. And here I would also have them a little bit higher, just they feel slightly low. Like this one would be higher than this one, of course, but just bring them a little bit higher up. In this one, I think we can push the pose. I agree also with this notes that basically if we see the hips from the front, the rotation in C needs to be higher where that where this leg is coming up. So this leg would be here. So you need to rotate the hip on this side, and I wonder if I would I think I would try to not straighten the leg, but a little bit more. And once you do that rotation with the hips, this, you will need to counter that with the um, chest a little bit, and that might bring that chest kind of around here, just so that you get a little bit of a stronger line of action. And maybe you can like add a little bit of foot roll, and all of this can actually be higher. Oops. And then I would try to do a pass on the hands. Right now, all throughout your animation, your hands feel a little bit stiff in terms of the pose. It's just one pose and they're just there. But like even if, for example, you see when they drop, if you see your reference, you're kind of curling the fingers a little bit, adding. I would just basically, once you retime, I would do a hand pass. Like even here, all of the fingers are together. Like something that is really nice to do is like the quote unquote the Disney hands, which is like grouping the fingers. So 1 3, 1 2 1, 3 1, live long and prosper. Yeah, yeah, just put a little bit more. Usually, like a lot of people tend to leave the hands for the very end, but hands are so expressive that they are like shoulders. If you don't add them, um, you're not expressing necessarily all that you can, because if not, it's not the same if I'm just gesturing like this that if I'm gesturing like this. Like this is not the same as this, because this changes my emotion and my what I'm actually conveying. So don't leave the hands for the end. Try to incorporate them already as part of your posing, and it's going to look really, really cool. Also, where is it? Be careful of things like this, where it's like the hand is quote unquote on top of, like on quote unquote on top of the arm. Um, No, I don't use X sheets. I'm going to tell you about that after this. So here, let me see where the hand was before and where it's going to be. For example, here, I would break this up a little bit more so that the hand is here. And even here, I would break it up a little bit more, just so that we see very clearly that arm and that hand. I'll, I think you asked me also another question and I forgot. So let me just write them down, because if not, I'm gonna forget. Um, Pratham, do you remember that other question that you asked me? Oh, the MG picker. Yeah. Let me just copy it here so that I'll talk about this after. Sorry, guys. Clearly today my brain decided to stop working, because why have a working brain when you can have a non-working brain? Okay, I'm copying now the questions so that I don't forget. Cool. And I will go over them. Here you can also bring this shoulder a little bit more forward. And again, pose the hand a little bit more. Same here. Maybe you can break that hand up a little bit. Maybe it's dragging a little bit more. Thank you. And then here again, hand pose. So I'm not going to say much, just you said you didn't give them so much love, so I'm going to let you give them love. Hang on, I was trying to see something and this kept going. Right now it's feeling like your spacing is a little bit off in here, just because if we see this, it's like a lot of movement here, especially there's like a lot, and then it stops completely, so it feels a little bit off. Maybe what you can do is just bring the hips not so far forward so that it doesn't feel like the chest hits a wall and it's like the hips are easing in. Also, this might be for polish. I personally don't do it in polish. I do it in blocking, but it's up to you. A lot of people do it in polish. There's nothing wrong with that. I like to pose the bend bows at the beginning because for me, it sells the appeal. It's not the same having the arm like this that in, but if you do it at the end, it's totally fine. It's just if you want to add it now, honestly, bend bows, people are super scared of bend bows. They're like, oh my gosh, that's so much work. There's so many more controls. You're gonna have to do it anyway. If you do the bend bows when you just have 5 poses, you might only need 5 benbo poses, and the rest you adjust it where you need it. Like usually I put my benbos from the first pose and I adjust as I need. And then I don't worry about the, like, when I hit spline, I usually don't even clean up my benbow curves unless there's something weird. I just spline them, and so far so good. Okay. And then here you need a little bit maybe more nuance because um it's just adding more breakdowns to have more of this motion. But yeah. I mean, no, honestly, it's like for me, it works doing them earlier. I'm not saying doing them at the end is bad. It's just maybe try it out because I think a lot of people are scared of Venbos when the earlier you do them, the less you worry about them. And the like, I usually know that if not, I might forget to add my Venbos, and then I will be sad. Here, as you're bringing your body down, I would not bring the neck so far down yet, and I would drag the head up slightly. So there's like a little bit of drag as you're coming down with the body. So that then you can play with the head rotating down. And all around here, I think that your neck is slightly too pushed. So I would not bring it down so far. Also here, I think you can push this pose, but bring in the shoulder a little bit higher. That's also going to hide the neck. And I think that's going to make it feel better. And that's going to bring maybe this arm a little bit uh, more screen right. And that's going to avoid this kind of feeling of tangent that you have there. Uh, Here, I'm not sure why, but right now you're kind of grabbing this at the top, and it's not bad here, but it does feel odd in this place. So I would like, yeah, I actually know. I would just basically from here we might not even see that hand, and already here we just might not see the hand at all because it's kind of like around here. And even here because this part is what's getting a little bit off for me. So I would just have kind of the arm there and here as well, especially because around here I think that hand, see, you already switch it, so you can just switch it from the beginning. When he's doing this, maybe in this pose, wait, is it this one or the next one? Yeah, maybe in this one, his head and maybe even his neck rotates back a little bit because right now it feels like he just hits this pose and stays there. Yeah, and then I would rework basically the bounces. Just try to follow your reference a little bit more. Because I think that's the part that also needs a little bit more love. And I think you can do it because it feels like you have a good grasp on body mechanics. So just follow it a little bit more. And if you're unsure of how to do it, just look at it by parts. Like look at what the hip is doing and avoid looking at everything else and then look at what the chest is doing. Because I've had also like 3 characters falling while I was studying at AM because apparently I hate myself and characters falling is hard at the beginning. But if you just try to look at it by parts, it's going to get easier. I think that's everything I have for you. Do you have any questions? Cool. Awesome. So, yeah, no problem. Um, we had a few questions. So, Pratham was asking, I see you managed to get the Anim School Picker working. Yes, I did. Is it better than MG Picker? To be honest, they're both good. It depends how they are set up. Um, I personally am not a very big fan of. Let me open here. Like I know that this can be done because I've done it before, so maybe it's just a setting that I don't have, or maybe it's because it's the trial version, but I know that you can dock this in places. And right now, the fact that I don't have that makes me like MG Picker more, which is really annoying because see this? I like being able to have my picker here docked. It's much easier for me to use it than having it as a window floating around. That annoys me. It doesn't work with how I work. In terms of how they work, the only thing that I would say is that the Anim School Picker is a little bit more user friendly. In terms of creating a picker, it seems a little bit easier. But I think with the MG Picker, it's just if you figure out how to do it, it's basically the same. Um, it's just a little bit more annoying because it's like here, if I just want a new control, I just add a button and that's it. In MG Picker, I need to set it to edit mode, edit it out. Adding things and grouping things is a little bit annoying. So yeah, it's not a terrible picker, but it's also it's a picker. But yeah, now I have the AnimScope picker. If anyone has problems and it's not working, basically my problem was that I had an old version installed in one of my Maya folders, so I had to go in, delete it, and then install this new one. And then you were talking about X sheets. I agree with Dan. I don't use X sheets. I think it's a waste of my time, and I don't need them. Why would I have something separate when I could just analyze it in Maya? The way that I do X sheets is when I have an audio, I grab my. I can actually do it with a shot. Open scene. X sheets. Let me just look. Oh my god, where? Oh, no. I can just go to recent files. X sheets are a thing that used to be used a lot when it was the 2D era, where it was how you would analyze your lip sync. So let me just find one as an example. If Maya lets me type on Chrome. So ugh, just let me show this picture. Hang on. Because apparently Google is not letting me show anything. So 1 second. There we go. So this is an X sheet. Basically, you could also plan your animation here. See how basically you have all your frames, and then you say, oh, this is how long it would take. This is I don't for me it's a waste of my time. I was taught how to do X sheets for dialogue. I mean, if you want to do it that way, it's more than fair. Let me see if I have an example here of dialogue with X sheets. Yeah, let me see if this one opens. Like also this one, where you basically do it by frames, but I understand this as a good idea to do it in 2D, but in 3D, I can change my timing so easily that I can't be thinking, this is going to take me 3 frames. This gesture is going to take me 5 frames. This one is going to take me 10. Also because I need to feel it out. I'm not the type of animator who instantly knows how many frames an action takes. I can guess it when I put it in Maya. Like I've come to a place where I can guess my timing, but I can't guess it in my brain. I need to put it in. So personally, I don't use it, and I've seen X sheets again for dialogue. And the way that I do my X sheets, instead of doing them in a separate page that I'm not gonna see because I'm looking at my computer, also that's a difference. Before they used to have paper, so there was paper everywhere, so they would look visually at this in the same place. Now we only look at our computer, so looking at other places kind of distracts our attention. So the way that I do it is I grab my blue pencil too. You can use grease pencil. I personally hate grease pencil. And let me just create a layer, make sure that it's an anim layer, and I'm gonna put it in the shotgun. I can do this automatically, but I just wanted to double check. And just let me make sure that I'm not deleting. Okay, is this a nice? Yes. So the way that I do my X sheets, if I have time, is, let me see. Yeah, grease pencil is the worst. Let me. So here, what I do is basically I scrub through and I listen to where the sound is, and I write down the shape that I will need. So for example, this is kind of like an so it's kind of like an I hear an M here. I hear a. And all of this is kind of pointless because she's not looking at the camera, but if she were, this is what I would do. And it's I write but it's not, it's like Also, when I do this in Spanish, like in the same in like Spanish sounds sometimes. So I mix it up. So if I mix it here, I'm sorry, because sometimes I will write the sound as this, but the a sound I wouldn't write a. I would write a because that's how it would sound in Spanish. Just because Spanish is a little bit more straightforward in the pronunciation. So do whatever works for you. Yeah. But it's not just about how phonetically I speak. Like the other day, uh, someone was talking about a charity and I signed up and I was giving them my name and I spelled it out and my last letter is an A. So I said A and they were like, oh, ah. The letter is called A. How do you want me to spell it? So, whatever. And here I know that there is a T, but I don't hear, I'm not acting. So I might just kind of close the mouth. Here I hear here I hear the T. And I'm not writing everything that I like. I'm not hearing a K sound very strong, so I'm not gonna write K. Here I hear like the E, but it's not a E, it's a. And around here I hear the N. So basically that's how I do my X sheets. I do them in Maya because then when I need to, the way that I usually block out a shot, when I have time, at work I don't have time, so I don't even do this because I don't have time for this. But if I did, what I would do is basically I don't block with sound. Because sound tends to make my scene very slow for some reason. Scrubbing through with sound makes it very slow. So instead of blocking to what I hear, I already know what I need. I wrote it down. So I already know the shapes that I'm going to be looking for, but I don't need to listen to it. And I already know the audio because I've heard it a million times. So I already know the cadence and the um, emotion behind it. Plus, I have Madison's amazing reference in this case, so I don't even need to worry about the mouse shapes because her mouse shapes are amazing. So that's me being lucky. So this is how I do it. Uh, and then once I have it all, then I would turn the sound on, do a play blast, and see if there's anything that I need that maybe I didn't hear while I was scrubbing through, because maybe I scrub through and I don't necessarily hear it. Right now, I don't have the audio very high, but when I'm doing this, I'm I have my headphones on 100% and I bump the volume up so much that I could turn deaf because I want to hear everything. Because sometimes, and I'm doing this because it happened to me. Um, there are very low sounds that if you don't turn the volume up, you don't hear them. Like when I was working in Spirit, I was working with my headphones, but I didn't have the volume so high up. And when Sean watched the my blocking, he was like, "Oh, I hear kind of a breath sound here," and I hadn't heard it because my volume wasn't as high up. So now I always turn it high up just for this pass. I will scrub through, and if there's a breath, like if there's an intake of a breath, are either I usually just write breath, because then I understand also that I if I forgot to add a breath like puff of the like chest puff, then I can add it in case I forgot. I when I block it, I'm not gonna block out today because it's been 3 hours now, so I need some food. um, so maybe next week. Basically, I'm gonna block this out on my downtime. But um, usually the way that I block is I don't do this kind of quote unquote audio X sheets until after I have the body blocked. Because if I do it now, I'm kind of wasting my time. I don't need to have the uh, know where I'm going to put my lip sync. I personally don't. If you want to do it at the beginning, do it at the beginning. It's not my problem. For me, it works to first just focus on the body and a few facial poses, and then I switch my brain and I'm like, okay, now I'm in face mode, and then I do the face. That's how my brain likes to work. If you are a very analytic person, this might help you because instead of doing everything at once, like people who are very creative and very artistic can do it all. A more analytical person, so I need steps because if not, I get overwhelmed. So I'm not gonna focus on the face until after I have the body. Once I have the body, then I can really do my lip sync and really focus on everything else. But that's just me. I'm weird. And my brain doesn't work very well, as you can see. Does anyone have anything else that they want me to look at? Any feedback, any questions? Because if not, I'm probably going to call it here. Um, I don't think I'll do much more because I I need a break. I, I can't animate right now because I might need to also do overtime this weekend, so I need a break. Thank you. Yeah, so far it's got a lot of meetings, so definitely interesting. Thank you. Well, have a great time. Tomorrow 1 p.m. PST, Madison has a feedback session. I'm not sure if we're doing anything this Saturday. To be honest, we haven't had that much time to plan. But if anyone has any suggestions on things they want to see or people you want us to interview, if we can get them, uh, we will try. So have a great one. Bye.